These are a few quotes from Kierkegaard on faith, speculation, and resolution. How do I bring to a halt the reflection set in motion in order to reach the beginning? Every beginning, when it does not occur by virtue of immanental thinking, but is made by virtue of a resolution, essentially by virtue of faith, that the knowing spirit is an existing spirit, and that every human being is such a spirit existing for himself, I cannot repeat often enough, because the fantastical disregard of this has been the cause of much confusion. According to Hegel, truth is a continuous world historical process. Each generation, each stage of this process is legitimated, and yet is only an element of the truth. Short of resorting to a bit of charlatanry, which helps by assuming that the generation in which Hegel lived, or the one after him, is imprimatur, that this generation is the last, and world history is past, we are all implicated in skepticism. The passionate question of truth does not even come up, because philosophy has first tricked the individuals into becoming objective. The positive Hegelian truth is just as deceptive as happiness was in paganism. Not until afterwards does one come to know whether one has been happy, and thus the next generation comes to know what truth was in the preceding generation. If a person is unwilling to make a decisive resolution, if he wants to cheat God of the heart's daring venture, in which a person ventures way out and loses sight of all shrewdness and probability, indeed takes leave of his senses, or at least of his worldly mode of thinking, if instead of beginning with one step he almost craftily seeks to find out something, to have the infinite certainty changed into a finite certainty, then this discourse will not be able to benefit him. There is an upside-downness that wants to reap before it sows. There is a cowardliness that wants to have certainty before it begins. There is a hypersensitivity so copious in words that it continuously shrinks from acting. But what would it avail a person if double-minded and fork-tongued? He wanted to dupe God, trap him in probability, but refused to understand the improbable, that one must lose everything in order to gain everything, and understand it so honestly that, in the most crucial moment, when his soul is already shuddering at the risk, he does not again leap to his own aid, with the explanation that he has not yet fully made a resolution, but merely wanted to feel his way. Therefore all discussion of struggling with God in prayer, of the actual loss, since if pain of annihilation is not actually suffered, then the sufferer is not yet out upon the deep, and his scream is not the scream of danger, but in the face of danger. And the figurative victory cannot have the purpose of persuading anyone, or of converting the situation into a task for secular appraisal, and changing God's gift of grace to the venture into temporal small change for the timorous. It really would not help a person if the speaker, by his oratorical artistry, led him to jump into a half-hour's resolution, by the ardor of conviction started a fire in him, so that he would blaze in a momentary good intention, without being able to sustain a resolution, or to nourish an intention as soon as the speaker stopped talking. The actuality of action is so often confused with all sorts of ideas, intentions, preliminaries to resolutions, preludes of mood, etc., that there is very seldom any action at all. When I am deliberating, the art is to think every possibility. The moment I have acted, in the inner sense, the transformation is that the task is to defend myself against further deliberation, except in so far as repentance requires something to be done over again. I am charging the individual in question with not willing to stop the infinity of reflection. Am I requiring something of him then? But on the other hand, in a genuinely speculative way, I assume that reflection stops of its own accord. Why then do I require something of him? And what do I require of him? I require a resolution, and in that I am right, for only in that way can reflection be stopped. These quotes were from Søren Kierkegaard's book, Concluding Unscientific Postscript to Philosophic Fragments, published in 1846, pages 189 and 90, 112, 33, 341, and 113, and for Upbuilding Discourses of 1844, part of 18 Upbuilding Discourses, page 380 and 381.